Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have my Game Week 15 team selection. The deadlines are coming thick and fast, so if you're enjoying all of the content, please do smash that like button. If you're new around here, make sure to subscribe as well. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So guys, I know there are still a couple of games left for Game Week 14, but with the Saturday morning deadline coming around the corner, we can't wait. So the Game Week 15 team selection is today, and I still have João Pedro left to play, just the one player. So could get some more points, or if he decides not to turn up, for just one game, then I do have Morgan Rogers sat on the bench. But as of right now, with one player left to play, I'm on 55 points, which does look like it'll almost definitely be a red arrow. And this has been coming because I think we had 5 or 6 consecutive greens. And all in all, it could be a lot worse. I would love to know, at the time of you watching this, how many points are you on for Game Week 14? And honestly, most of the players in my team not only stunk it up, but I mean, they really did stink it up. So let's go through it, and we'll start with the defense, because some people got lots of points with the likes of Timber, Saliba, Raya, Gvardiol, but a lot of others didn't. And I think a lot of you will be in the same boat as me. So Maresca's rotation was so much worse than we probably anticipated, to the point where he actually rotated Sanchez. Now, there is a small part of me which is slightly worried because people have been calling for Jorgensen to start anyway, but I do just think it looks like Jorgensen will start every midweek game. Now, the good thing about that, if that's the case, is Sanchez comes straight back in and he's still number one. But we now know, therefore, that if I do keep Sanchez for the long term, it looks like there's a good chance Jorgensen might start midweek games. And we do have another one in December. We'll probably have a couple more throughout the season as well. So that's something to monitor. It might just be that even in the Premier League, Sanchez doesn't start. So it's worth having someone like Fabianski on the bench. Obviously, if Fabianski does lose his place soon, though, it might be that I either need to ditch Sanchez or get a second rotating keeper. But yeah, so Sanchez didn't play. Fabianski comes on for a 2-pointer. It could have been a lot worse. It looked like Leicester could have scored 4 in that game, and Fabianski might not have made 3 saves. So 2 points, I'll take it. The rest of the defence was honestly awful. For Leif Davis to be my top scoring defender with 2 points says everything. Obviously, Aït-Nouri and Wolves looking terrible. There are rumours going around that Gary O'Neill is basically gone, which might help Aït-Nouri and Cunha. With Ipswich and Leicester coming up, by the way, after the West Ham game, it could be a really good situation if there is a bit of a new manager bounce. But Aït-Nouri, 0 points. Gabriel obviously didn't play, and we'll discuss the update on Gabriel in a second and what that means moving forward. And then Rico Lewis and Vandenberg both getting 1 point, and I obviously get the 1 pointer subbed on for Gabriel. So to get 4 points from my goalkeeper and 3 defenders, that's obviously not a good situation to be in. And honestly, the rest of the team largely didn't do a lot. Saka, blank, and again, when the likes of Raya and Timber and Saliba all return, for me to have Gabriel, who didn't feature, and a Saka 3 points. I mean, I'm not complaining because they did so well for me last week, but that obviously wasn't great. And Burmo has now taken 1 shot in 5 games. It was another entire game where he didn't take a shot. And obviously that was very frustrating for me because Rogers on the bench got the goal. He did have an assist as well at one point, but it was rightfully taken away because it just wasn't an assist based on the FPL ruling. So an 8-pointer though with a bonus point, that does hurt. So that's a 6-point swing there. I just think Mbeumo historically is a better asset, and he was on penalties. So I was just hopeful that he would get a pen or that he would deliver something of what we've seen in the past. But yeah, one shot in 5 games. He's just not the asset he was. And the issue that I have is last time that I sold a player that wasn't taking shots was Solanke, and he got a 16-pointer. Like, these assets are always going to be good, and he's got a home game next up is the issue. But yeah, he's just not got the goal threat this season. He's playing a much deeper, wider role. So very, very disappointing. The 2 premiums showing why they are premium. So Palmer getting a 7-pointer and Salah getting an 18-pointer. The mathematicians will realise that if you own both of them and captain Palmer, that's an 11-point loss. So if I'd have captain Salah instead of Palmer, I would have gained 11 points, which is the difference between a small red and a relatively large green arrow. If I'd have captained Salah, I would have been inside the top 500k. I'll be entirely honest, I didn't consider captaining Salah. I looked at that Palmer fixture and said, if Palmer starts against Southampton, I expect Chelsea to score more goals, and Palmer is a bit of a flat track bully. Chelsea did score more goals, and by the way, Chelsea accumulated over 5 XG in that game. Palmer just struggled to get into those final goal-scoring actions. His data was relatively good, and I would say that the goal, there was a large element of luck. It was essentially a tap-in which rebounded to him in the box. So I'm delighted Palmer scored. If you look at the data, he probably should have got a return, but Salah has just been monstrous. It's getting a bit silly at this stage. I think it's his 10th double-digit return in 14 weeks. That is more than the entirety of last season. He's now got 4 more bonus points than the entirety of last season. He is fully on track to beat his own FPL record of 303 points. It is sadly getting to a stage where we saw with Haaland in previous seasons. I don't think I want to even think about captaincy at the moment. I mean, look at those fixtures coming up. Everton, Fulham, Spurs, Leicester. I think I just captain Salah every week. And as boring as that is, and as much as there will be opportunities to go against him, he's just making you look like an idiot every week that you don't captain him. And I mean, if you don't own Salah at this stage, I do genuinely feel for you because Haaland has been getting the chances, and I assume it's Haaland that you own instead. Just put yourself out of the misery and just buy a Salah at this stage because the man has just been absolutely ridiculous. The amount of points that he's getting it's beyond belief every single week. And to be honest, both of the goals were taken really well. The assist was really nice. It's not even like he's getting lucky every single week. There have been some fortunate goals in there, but he's just performing to an elite standard at the moment. So the front line, obviously, João Pedro's yet to play. Cunha and Wolves were terrible. And I did say that it wasn't a good fixture because Everton have been defending well. I think that's 3 clean sheets in 4 weeks now. And the game against Man United, when they conceded 4, yes, they conceded chances, but it was only about 0.7, 0.8 XG. So Everton largely are, and by the way, Salah plays against Everton this week, but they are largely defending quite well. So it was never a great game, but that was disappointing. And I left the best for last because I fought the urge to sell Isak for Jackson when everyone this week, well, it felt like everyone this week was selling Isak for Jackson. I just looked at it and I'll be honest, the reason I kept Isak is I love him as an asset. I bought him in Game Week 31 last season. I don't know if you remember at the back end of the season when Isak went on that crazy run of scoring. When I bought Isak, he was about 3 or 4%, and he got me double-digit return after double-digit return when he was really lowly owned. So I love him as an asset. I love watching him. He's on penalties. The data's fantastic. But even more importantly than that, after the Liverpool game, he played against Brentford, Leicester, Ipswich. So I wouldn't say I got lucky this week keeping him, but the reason I kept him really was for the 3 games after Liverpool. But I also made the decision to start him this week instead of Rodgers. Now, that looks like it'll be a 3-point swing, so it's not like I've gained massively there. But you know when you just trust your gut feeling and you feel like you're going against what the majority are telling you should do by not only keeping Isak but starting him. So it felt like a time where I've backed myself and that has paid off. And if you watched the Liverpool-Newcastle game, that wasn't a lucky 11-pointer for Isak. The man fully balled out. He was playing so incredibly well. If you've not seen his goal, it was an absolute thunder bastard top bins from about 20 yards out. The assist was really nice for Gordon. He had a couple of other times when he was in the box. It was just a brilliant performance from him. So that really, really is firstly, one of my favourite sets of points that I've had this season, but also the only reason that I'm not sat here looking at a huge, huge red arrow right now. Because if I had a 2-pointer from Isak rather than 11, then yeah, I'm all the way back close to 1 million. So thank you, Isak. Thank you, Palmer, for at least getting something. And hopefully João Pedro can top that up tonight. So 55 points with 1 left to play. As I said, let me know how many points you're on for Game Week 14. But the team does have a few issues, and there's a few things I need to sort. So let's take a look at Game Week 15. So guys, moving on to Game Week 15, I've currently got 1.1 million in the bank and 2 free transfers. So a little bit of flexibility there. I guess that was another benefit of obviously not selling Isak for Jackson, is that it gave me the ability to roll the transfer. And honestly, I'm not saying this just for suspense. I really need your help this week because I could do everything from roll to using 1 free transfer to using both. And I have even eyed up a -4 here. I would honestly say there is an equal chance of me rolling or using both free transfers this week. It just comes down to how happy I am to sell certain attackers and how desperate I am to get some certain premium defenders into the team. But yeah, a little bit of flexibility at least. Let's start with the goalkeepers as always. This is actually one of the first things that I need your help with this week. So I've got Sanchez and Fabianski. It feels like a classic case of, do you back the better defence or do you back the better fixture? Because all in all, Chelsea have defended very well this season. Even against Southampton, they didn't give up a massive amount of XG. And I know they conceded, and I know Sanchez didn't start in that game. But this season, Chelsea are comfortably a top 4 defence. And honestly, they're probably, I haven't even checked the data updated after Game Week 14, but they might potentially even be into second or third. So all in all, they've defended very, very well this season. And in these tougher games, they sometimes don't go the way we think. They are sometimes a little bit more cagey and tight. But then again, the Spurs are still, according to XG per 90, the best attack in the league this season. And they're very unpredictable. Like, Spurs could put 4 goals past Chelsea and I wouldn't be surprised. Or they could have a stinker and not score. So it feels a little bit unpredictable, that game. But you probably wouldn't expect a clean sheet for Sanchez. And then I've got Fabianski on the bench against Wolves at home. Now, if I were just looking at the fixtures, Wolves at home is a significantly better fixture. Wolves are struggling a little bit. I mean, they really struggled against Everton. It's at home for Fabianski as well. But then I just don't trust the West Ham defence particularly. So yes, it's a much better fixture. But I just trust, and this is a crazy thing to say, but I just trust Chelsea slightly more. I guess let's see how Spurs get on tonight. That might make my decision for me. If they look absolutely rampant and score like 5 goals, then it might put me off a little bit. Also, let's see if Gary O'Neill is sacked in the next couple of days, because whilst they probably won't have time to get a new manager in, it might just give that Wolves team a bit of a lift, because they have been absolutely appalling over the last couple of games. Something else which is making me want to start Sanchez is I don't own any Spurs players, whereas at the moment I'm starting both of my Wolves assets. So I almost feel like, do you know what? I might just put all of my eggs in the basket that I think Wolves score and just start Sanchez instead. In all honesty, I'm expecting both to concede, so it probably doesn't matter, but I would love your opinion down below. I will just say there is a chance that Jorgensen starts again. A lot of people will probably be concerned that Sanchez has lost his place. I think it was just mass rotation, and Jorgensen has started all of the midweek games this season. That does help moving forward, knowing that Sanchez probably isn't going to keep his place in those midweek games, as I said. However, I think he will come back in. I think Maresca has made it clear he's his first choice. So as of right now, I think Sanchez starts against Spurs, but that might be famous last words. So yeah, let me know which goalkeeper you'd start. I'm leaning towards Sanchez at the moment. Moving on to the defence, it's a big issue. If I look at the defence in its entirety, I'm only happy with one defender, which is Gabriel, and we don't even know if Gabriel is going to start this game. The other 4, there are major concerns with all of them. So let's start firstly with Gabriel. So I've just got the quote in front of me. I'll try to remember flash it on your screen, but I might forget. But the quote is, Gabriel was a big risk to play today. Start again. Gabriel was a big risk to play today because he felt something against West Ham. If you're wondering, by the way, it's like 6 a.m. when I'm recording this. Sunday, he's going to be a possibility. Okay? So Gabriel was a big risk to play today because he felt something against West Ham. Sunday, he's going to be a possibility. We still don't know if it genuinely is a bit of a small knock that it was in relation to the Sporting Lisbon game, or if it is concussion-based. If it's concussion-based, I don't even know if he will be back, if they're following the full protocol, which I think can be up to 10 days. If it is an injury, that doesn't necessarily make it any better. You just don't know with Arteta. So sadly, it's going to be one of those where I probably wouldn't recommend bringing him in unless we see him in training, but I also wouldn't recommend selling him or benching him. I think it's one of those, don't bench, don't sell, don't buy. You just hold him, you start him, and you hope that he's available. But it might force you into a defender transfer if your bench is looking very weak. So we might get an update in the next couple of days. As of right now, I'm going to say hopeful that Gabriel plays, and I'm going to keep him in my starting 11 as of right now. But then, like I said, that means that the remaining defenders have to be a little bit stronger for me. And that's Ait-Nouri and Davis starting right now with Lewis on the bench. On Ait-Nouri, I'm fully aware that Wolves stink. I never expect a clean sheet. And they're still playing this back 4 where Ait-Nouri's playing left back. So Ait-Nouri's not even particularly got the attacking threat. I would go as far as saying I have no issue selling or benching Ait-Nouri. And I know that's crazy when he's got West Ham, Ipswich, Leicester. But I'm seeing nothing from Wolves or Ait-Nouri, which is making me think that he's like an elite FPL asset. If they were to get a new manager and then switch to a 3 or 5 at the back before Ipswich and Leicester, well, then all of a sudden he's a great option for those two. But do bear in mind that he's on 4 yellow cards. So if he gets booked against West Ham and misses the Ipswich game, well, then it's one more good game before Wolves go on an absolutely stinking run. So I'm probably going to keep Ait-Nouri because I have other defenders that I can sell. But at the same time, I have no real issue if you decide to bench him or sell him. I just don't see Wolves as a team that I want to own that many players from. Because again, after the Ipswich and Leicester games, it really turns for the worse for them. So I'll be starting him this week because my defence is a bit of a mess. And I equally think that West Ham haven't been particularly great recently. Although they put up a very high amount of XG against Leicester. I'll be honest, there's actually a chance I bench Ait Nouri. I don't know why I'm being so stubborn with it. I've got Rico Lewis sat on the bench. So yeah, there is a chance that I bench Ait Nouri this week. I just kind of like him as a player. Again, it's similar reason to why I kept Isak last week. I just like Ait Nouri, but I've not really seen a lot from him recently. I do have Leif Davis in the starting 11. I'm honestly very tempted to sell him this week as well. If you look underneath Davis and Ait Nouri, they've both got really tough fixtures coming up. Like, they're both coming towards the end of good fixture runs. So I'm kind of happy selling either of them. He's got Bournemouth at home this week and then Wolves next week. But after that, it's Newcastle, Arsenal, Chelsea. And if you look for the next 15 game weeks, there aren't many that I desperately want to play Leif Davis. I am slightly hesitant selling him, mainly because he is still the most attacking defender in the league with the most big chances created, and the most key passes. But also he's a 90-minute man. So if I had to sit him on my bench, even if I didn't start him, if you have to have an auto sub in a given week, at least he plays. Like this week, I had a Rico Lewis auto sub, and he got me a 1 point because he doesn't play. And I know a lot of the time Leif Davis will only get 1 point anyway, but I at least like that he's always on the pitch. And because he takes set pieces, an assist is possible even in difficult games. So I'm not desperate to keep Leif Davis. With the fixtures going up, I'll probably sell him soon. But I suppose he's also not a player that I need to rush out of my team, which then leaves Rico Lewis, who's sat on the bench at the moment and probably shouldn't be because he didn't start against Nottingham Forest. And based on the amount of minutes that he's got this season, and it's difficult to predict Pep, by the way, there is a chance that Lewis comes straight back in. He could play at right back rather than Kyle Walker. He could play at left back rather than Gvardiol, or he could just start in midfield or a sort of a right winger again. There are lots of possibilities, and Crystal Palace isn't an awful fixture, although they are starting to play better at the moment. So I kind of feel like Rico Lewis should probably be in my starting 11 ahead of one of Ait Nouri or Davis. But I think that also depends on what defender transfers I make, because there honestly is a chance that I sell Rico Lewis this week as well. Vandenberg is obviously there as well. I don't think he continues to start for much longer because he's not been very good. I don't think Brentford have been playing particularly well. I wouldn't be surprised to see like Rorslev start instead, or them just mix it up and go for a 3 at the back. If they go for a 3 at the back, he could also start as a right centre back. But yeah, I've just not been impressed with Vandenberg or Brentford, but he's very, very cheap. And with the other 3 defenders that I own alongside Gabriel not being great, there's justification to sell them first. So that is the defenders as things stand. In terms of where I would like to go, I have the money in the bank to do something like Lewis to Timber or Lewis to Joe Gomez or Davis or Ait Nouri to Joe Gomez, right? It doesn't have to be Rico Lewis. If I want Timber, I could also still sell Ait Nouri or Davis instead as well. So there is the option to just use one transfer this week to just sell Lewis Davis or Ait Nouri for Timber or Joe Gomez. But the other possibility, and what I really desperately want to do, is bring in one of Van Dijk or Trent. But to bring in one of Van Dijk or Trent, it's obviously going to require 2 transfers because I'd have to downgrade an attacker, wink, wink, and Burma on the bench, as I'll discuss in a second, to then upgrade one of the defenders. So I really do think I should probably use at least one of my transfers this week sorting out the defence. Because even if you look at it this week and you say, Ross, you don't really need it. You've got Gabriel who should start, hopefully. You've got Ait Nouri, Davis, Lewis. You can start 2 of them. Again, Rico Lewis isn't reliable every week to start. And then Ait Nouri and Davis have got rubbish fixtures coming up. So if I don't make a defender transfer this week, I'm going to have to soon anyway. Because the fixtures coming up are absolutely stinking for this defence. So yeah, there are issues. I know I need to sort them, but let's move on to the midfield and then we'll look at the team in its entirety in a second. So moving on to the midfield, I'll try to keep this one a little bit shorter because 3 of the players every week, I sort of will discuss them, but they don't really need discussing, which is Salah, Palmer, Saka, and I still think these are the best 3 premiums. Haaland only getting a single assist in a 3-0 City win. He's just not at it at the moment. And even if he'd have scored and got an assist, I still would have been sat there thinking, do you know what? He's still 15 million and I'm still pretty happy with the 3 premiums I have. So yeah, Saka, Palmer, Salah won't be getting sold for at least 3 game weeks. There is still a possibility that I try to move towards Haaland in game week 18 if Palmer or Saka aren't at it, or Salah suddenly somehow for the next 3 or 4 really struggles. But I'm probably going to be going out without Haaland for the foreseeable, which means that these 3 can just stay in the team. In terms of decisions this week around the 3, it really is just captaincy. Honestly, fixtures-wise, it might be Cole Palmer that has the best fixture because Everton have been, like I said, really defending quite well recently. Sean Dyche is back at it. The Merseyside derby, you just never really know. It has been low scoring at points in the past. So as good as Salah's been fixture-wise, I don't love the matchup for him. And I always prefer when he's playing at home as well. But equally, we've just seen what he can do away against Newcastle, who, again, have been defending quite well. I think I'm just going to permanently captain Salah. It's so sad and so boring, but I just keep looking like an idiot every time I go against him. Like, I've gone against Salah like twice in the last like 5 weeks, and both times, once was against Villa when he got 14 points, then against Newcastle with 18. I just keep looking like an idiot every time I go against him. So at the moment, he's got the armband. But like I said, I like the Palmer fixture against Spurs. That could be a high-scoring game. I don't love the Saka fixture because it's away, and I think Fulham have been defending consistently very well this season. Let's see how they get on against Brighton tonight. If they concede loads of goals and they look really weak, then maybe I consider Saka. But I think for me, it's between Salah and Palmer, and I'm just leaning Salah at the moment. So that's the only decision around the 3 premiums. The other decision is honestly a massive one. So 2 things. If I don't make a transfer in the attack this week, and let's say I do just decide to sell one of my defenders for Timber or Joe Gomez and just leave it at that, I genuinely think it's a lot harder than people are suggesting to choose between Rodgers and Mbeumo to start this week. Now, in favour of Rodgers, he had a great performance in Game Week 14, got a goal, could have had an assist as well, got really good minutes, and honestly was one of the better players on the pitch. And he's going into a game now against Southampton, who just conceded over 5xG to Chelsea, and just are comfortably the worst team in the league for me at the moment. So all of that, and it's at home, all of that in favour of Rodgers. But he played like 87 minutes. Emery and the fans have repeatedly been saying how tired and fatigued Rodgers looks and how much he needs a rest. Is this not the best time to give Rodgers a rest? Otherwise, he's playing 3 games. And he's done this, by the way. Again, 3 games in the space of a week. It just feels like with some of the fixtures they've got coming up against Forest, City, Newcastle, Champions League games too, it does just feel like the best time to give Morgan Rodgers a rest. I do just worry, therefore, that he's on the bench, or even if he's not on the bench, an earlier sub than usual, again, around the 60 to 65th minute. So I feel like once again, but I said this against Brentford, I just feel like his expected minutes are quite low. Mbeumo is much better at home. So he's got a home fixture, which is great. He's a 90-minute man, and he's on penalties, which is all of the stuff we said, by the way, again, ahead of Game Week 14, and that didn't pan out for me. But I do think there is reasoning to start Mbeumo ahead of Rodgers if I decide not to make a transfer. So that's the thing that's going through my mind right now. Maybe I'm overthinking it, and maybe I just start Rodgers against Southampton at home, which is why he's in the 11 at the moment. But yeah, Mbeumo on the bench just feels like it's asking for pain when he's, again, a penalty taker. Like, all he needs is a pen, and he can come away with 10 or 11 points. So let me know what you would do if I don't make a transfer, start Rodgers or start Mbeumo. I think it comes down to my expected minutes prediction for Rodgers, because if I think Rodgers starts, I think I'll start him. If there are any doubts, maybe I just play Mbeumo. The only thing for me is there is a good chance that I downgrade Mbeumo to be able to afford a Trent or Van Dijk in my team, which I'll discuss in a bit more detail in a second. And if I do that, all of the options that I'm looking at to bring in have cracking fixtures this week. Matoma, great fixture. Bowen, great fixture. Gordon, great fixture. Who else is there? Semenyo, great fixture. So all of the players that I would want to bring in this week create a further benching headache for me, where it just makes it even more difficult for me to decide whether to start Rodgers or not. So I'm going to have a benching headache regardless. And this is the thing, when you have 8 good attackers, you are going to have benching headaches. So that's the midfield as things stand. I'll leave it there because my transfers that I might make really do shape the benching headache that I'm likely to have in the midfield. But right now, the 3 premiums plus Rodgers against Southampton at home, it's looking pretty good. So moving on to the 3 forwards, and despite all 3 of them playing away this week, it's looking very, very good in terms of the matchups and also the players that I'm owning, in my opinion. So I've got João Pedro, Cunha, and Isak. And I'll just jump straight over to Fantasy Football Hub to show you why I like this so much. So, by the way, there is still the 30% off and 30-day free trial if you click the link in the description. So if you want to get access to all of the data that I use in my videos, points projections, fixture analyzer, planning ahead, all of that lovely stuff, use the link down below. You get a 30-day free trial. So the entirety of December, you'll be able to use it for free. And then you can decide if it's something you want to use moving forward. So yeah, do check out that link. But obviously, Cunha's playing against West Ham. So what I've done, by the way, is I've sorted this table by expected goals conceded per 90. So the teams at the bottom are the worst defence in the league. So Morgan Rodgers against Southampton, by the way. That's why that looks so good. Ipswich are playing against Bournemouth. So if I do bring in Semenyo, which is a possibility, that's great. But then I've got João Pedro against Leicester, assuming that he's fine and doesn't pick up an injury today. Then I've got Cunha against West Ham. And then I've got Isak against Brentford. I mean, it's looking very, very nice. I've got a player against all of these defenses if I bring in Semenyo, but then I wouldn't start Rodgers. And then obviously I don't have Jared Bowen against Wolves. But Jared Bowen, again, looking very, very good for this week. So I guess that's why I like the front three so much, is that I'm playing against 3 of the 5 or 6 worst defenses in the league. So it's looking very strong. But if we just go back to it then and talk about each of the players, obviously João Pedro's playing tonight of the day of me recording this. So if he gets like crazy, let's say he gets like 90 minutes, it might be João Pedro that I bench, believe it or not, because it's a Thursday to Sunday turnaround. So it's only a couple of days rest that they have. And we know that João Pedro is building his minutes back up. So I think in an ideal world, João Pedro scores a hat-trick and comes off in the 70th minute. And then we're looking very good. But if he gets really, really high minutes, that would concern me a little bit. But outside of that, going against Leicester, they're a team that have just shipped like 3 XG to West Ham. They're not defending well. Even under Rude, I expect them to still ship a lot of goals. So that's looking nice. Cunha obviously against West Ham. If Wolves do sack Gary O'Neill, I think it's looking a lot better. But regardless, I think it's a good fixture. And I would expect Wolves to score. And Cunha's on penalties and set pieces as well. And then Alexander Isak, again, delighted I kept him because now he's got Brentford, Leicester, Ipswich. If we look at those, again, Brentford, Leicester, Ipswich, all in the worst 5 defences in the league at the moment for this season. It's a great set of fixtures. Now, Brentford have been better at home this season. But I will just say, if you look at the games they've played at home, they've played Leicester, Ipswich, Southampton, and Wolves all at home. So yes, they've been better at home, Brentford, but they've also had much better fixtures at home than away. Like away, they've played the likes of City and Liverpool, I believe, and maybe Arsenal or Spurs, but they've had much, much better fixtures at home versus away. And also at home, they are still shipping goals because they win like 5-3. All in all, I think this is a game where I could see Isak getting a lot of joy through the centre of that pitch, maybe on counter-attacks as well, because Brentford do push a lot of men forward. So, yeah, if I look at that front 7 right now without a transfer being made, with Mbeumo on the bench, it's great. 6 of the 7 that I'm starting are on penalties. Obviously, Mbeumo on pens on the bench. Really good fixtures. The 3 premiums that I want. Really, if I look at where this team's lacking before we look at my transfer possibilities, I think Mbeumo has been stinking up for his price, and that defence is absolutely horror. So those are the 2 places that I'd like to fix. So let's take a look at my transfer possibilities, and this is where I need your help. So guys, moving on to my transfer possibilities, here are roughly the 4 options that I think I have. But of course, it could be a combination. It could be something else that you guys think of. But the first option is I just roll the transfer. Like, you've just seen my team. Defense does need some work. But at the same time, if I do roll the transfer, I'll have 3 free transfers going into game week 16. And then I can literally, if I want to, make 3 defensive transfers and really sort it out at that point. So just because the defense needs work doesn't mean if I roll the transfer, I can't sort the defense. It just means I'm delaying it slightly. So that is the first possibility, is that I just roll the transfer, rock with the team as it is, and then get another week of information. The next option, as I spoke about, is just not making any attacking transfers, keeping Mbeumo for 1 more week and reassessing, and instead just bringing in one of Timber or Gomez for Lewis Davis, or I suppose I should consider Ait-Nouri as well. So one of the 3 defenders outside of Vandenberg and Gabriel going to Timber or Gomez. If it is Gomez I buy, then I suppose I could sell Vandenberg too. Out of the 2 defenders, I think I marginally prefer Timber, because I think Timber is more attacking than Gomez. I think he's more nailed in the long term, because I think even once Ben White's back, he can play left back, or, in all honesty, he could start ahead of Ben White. And I think the fixtures are like equal. Like, let's actually just go over and take a look. So here are the fixtures for Liverpool. So they obviously have Everton this week and go on a really nice run now until game week 25. Arguably, other than Spurs away, you'd be pretty happy playing your Liverpool defender in any of those weeks. And really, after the City game, I mean, I'd be pretty happy playing my Liverpool defender until 33. But the thing is, Joe Gomez isn't starting until game week 33. For Arsenal, if we just take a look at their fixtures, is a similar sort of setup. Like, they've got less green fixtures, but I'm happy playing my Arsenal defender in honestly all of these other than Spurs at home and Man City at home. There may be Chelsea at home here, but I mean, honestly, you're just happy playing your Arsenal defenders every single game, and maybe we should feel the same about Liverpool as well. But I think all in all, I probably marginally prefer Timber ahead of Gomez. Whether I sell Lewis Davis or Ait-Nouri, I'm just not sure at the moment. Rico Lewis, I think in the long term makes more sense because every week I worry about his minutes. But then Davis's fixtures, and like I said, Ait-Nouri's fixtures, they fall off a cliff very, very soon. So that's one possibility. It depends how much I just don't want to sell Mbeumo. Option 3 is one that I didn't really speak about, which is just selling Mbeumo for the sake of selling Mbeumo, just selling him to a better asset for me, which would probably be Gordon or Bowen. I think I'd go Anthony Gordon because the next 3 fixtures are absolutely outrageous. So Brentford, Leicester, Ipswich. And when I think about my team moving forward, I think I'm going to have to take money out of that Mbeumo position anyway if I want to improve the defence. So what I like about Gordon also is that really it's 3 game weeks and then I'd want to sell him probably. So it's like a 3 game week punt and then I will take the money out after that. So it's like give me 3 game weeks, Gordon, of Brentford, Leicester, Ipswich. Go massive for me, and then I'll move you on after that, and then I'll look to improve the defence, which I don't mind the idea of, but then I am delaying sorting out the defence and giving myself less money to improve it. So probably less likely than some of the other options, but I do really like the idea of getting Anthony Gordon. Option 4 is using both of my free transfers, and what I think will be the most popular option, and let me know down below if you do like it, which is selling Mbeumo to upgrade Lewis to Trent. Now, this can be Van Dijk, but it would be Mbeumo to someone like Semenyo, who has Ipswich away this week, which, like I said, just makes the benching headache so much worse. But I like Semenyo's minutes moving forward, and the fixtures are pretty good. He's got West Ham at home the week after, where I can start him instead of Rodgers. And then Lewis to Trent. Or I could do something like Davis to Van Dijk. Like, I've got lots of options there, but it would be basically Trent or Van Dijk coming in. Part of me says, do you know what? Trent getting benched shows why Van Dijk might just be the better asset to own. Because you just never know if Trent's going to start every game. And clearly he's not fully there with his fitness. Otherwise, why would he be benched, right? He's getting early subs still. He comes off the bench. But then he comes off the bench and gets 2 assists. And looks incredibly good. Trent will start more games than he won't. And when he's on the pitch, he's just a better asset than Van Dijk. And I think if I've got the money to do it, maybe I take the risk. But then also, I'm looking at my defense right now and I'm thinking, I need to stop taking risk with my defense. Like, I've got so many issues with like fixtures and minutes, and defense is not doing well. Like, maybe like Van Dijk and Gabriel alongside each other. Once Gabriel's fully fit again, that's 2 players you never have to worry about. Whereas with Trent, there's always that slight doubt surrounding him. So yeah, let me know down below what you think about Trent versus Van Dijk if I can afford Trent. But that set of transfers does feel like it is a massive upgrade for my team. It just gives me a really big benching headache as well this week. So there we go. I'll leave it there. I'll go back to my team so that you can see it. So to recap, possibility 1, roll. Leave the team as it is. Maybe start Rico Lewis ahead of Aït-Nouri or Davis. Option 2 is just sell one of my defenders for probably Timber and then have double Arsenal defence. Option 3 is sell Mbeumo for Gordon and then probably bench Rodgers. And then option 4 is to sell Mbeumo and one of my defenders for Semenyo and Trent. And then honestly, it would be benching Rodgers or Semenyo, which would be very tough. Let me know what of the options you prefer, or if there's something else I could do. And let me know what your plans are for Game Week 15 as well. So guys, there you have it. That is my Game Week 15 team selection. There have been so many deadlines recently, but after this, we have a normal week until the Game Week 16 deadline. But if you appreciate all of the content and you've been enjoying it recently as well, please do smash that like button. If you've got to this point and you're not yet subscribed, or if you've watched a few of my videos before and you've decided not to subscribe, please consider doing so. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.